So what we're going to do today, and I know it's getting late in the afternoon, so we'll zip through this as quick as we can. We're just going to take a look at what have we learned from this. I'm going to go over some of the basics in the early days. Tony Grigg was going to be here with us today to talk about thoughts from memory care, but she had a personal emergency and she couldn't make it today. So Michele volunteered to step in and give us some thoughts from memory care. We did a quick survey, and thank you to those of you in the room that participated. We checked in with some board members and some leadership and asked them, what did they learn from COVID? We set out a few questions and got some great information back. We're going to talk a little bit about social connection in a time of physical isolation, which worked out perfect that Dr. Nanda came into our life right at the perfect time. And then we're going to talk about what a COVID Zarina knows. So the basics, January 2020 was a pretty good month. We were all post-holiday, we were all feeling comfortable in our jobs, we had some pretty stable routines in place, and then comes February, and the pandemic came, and it hit us hard, and it hit us fast. And it did not wait for us to learn about it. It did not wait for us to catch up, and it just plowed through us like mad. So with this new virus, and because it was a new virus, the novel, COVID-19 virus, everything happened very quickly, which left most of us, probably everybody in this room, feeling, there was a lot of unrest. We felt uncomfortable, we felt anxious, we felt afraid, we felt sad. There was a period of time, probably in April and May, when I think the majority of ET was about to walk out and quit because we couldn't take one more minute. I've talked several of my colleagues off the ledge, and they have done the same for me, and God bless all of you, Michele, David, Audra. As a team, we got through all of this. And that brings me to my next point. It really does take a team. And in the beginning, we were called the COVID team. And then it got kind of funny because Roger told us we had to be the return to normalcy team. And I'm not sure if this is normal, but here we are. So we have returned to some kind of normalcy. We learned a lot about infection control, hand washing, and masking. And I don't want to say we were lazy. We just didn't think about it, right? We didn't have to think about it in our normal day-to-day living. But boy, COVID brought that back to us, and we learned to wash our hands, sanitize our hand, and keep our masks on most of the time. And then we had the lockdown, which was such an eerie thing, and I'm not poking fun at the end of times, but really, some of the times that I was out driving, I thought maybe I missed the rapture, because I'd be like the only car in the road. I'm like, God, I thought for sure I'd go, but maybe not. So I don't know if any of you thought that, but I was a little concerned, but anyhow. So hopefully I didn't miss it, and neither did any of you, and we're going to keep going. So Michele's going to share just a little bit. She's got her own thoughts, and Tony was kind enough to send us some thoughts about memory care.
So with memory care, there's different aspects, of course, different things to take into consideration when we are dealing with individuals who do not understand what's happening. And the negative news and things that can be coming into the building can really cause that increased anxiety and confusion. And as Katrina said, took a team, or really the theme that we had today is the togetherness. We all had to work together, and we, again, was a key word for that. In terms of the leadership, the PVM leaders, we were put to the ultimate test. We had to navigate all of the murky waters, try to figure out what was the new standards for today. And sometimes it was literally that. What was said yesterday changed. Today it's all different. Katrina and I spent many very early mornings and late nights trying to make sense of all of the orders that were coming out, and how was independent living or memory care defined in this order, and it was defined differently in the previous order. So it took a lot for us to be working together and figuring that out, and then being able to get that information out to all of the staff and to the boots on the ground. Then we talk about our staff. Absolutely amazing. We would not have survived it without the staff. When we look at the memory care in general, they were the population that was really locked down, probably the earliest and the longest. Our staff When we hear all hands on deck, I mean, it was literally all hands on deck. There was such a blurring of job descriptions. It didn't matter if you were normally the housekeeper. If there was no cook, you were cooking. Executive directors in the room, Erica, who were cooking breakfast, for the residents, directors who were taking out garbage. There was just the blurring. It was all hands on deck, everyone working together. Our staff really became the resident support system, became their friends, celebrating birthdays, milestones, all of those things with them. And often with their family members locked on the outside, having to do the visits by the windows. But even through all of that, family members showed us support. How many communities had family members who did drive-by parades to rally up the staff members and to tell them thank you. And when Katrina talks about going out on the road and everyone's locked down and wondering where's everyone at, our staff were at work, and remembering that in the heart of it, they put themselves second to our residents. They could have been bringing home the coronavirus to their families, to their loved ones in their home, but they still showed up every single day, and they did the job that needed to get done. So we had a lot of creative things. We talk about our sales and marketing team. They weren't necessarily selling anymore. They were running check-ins, people coming in doing health checks, screenings, temperatures, logs, all of that fun things that we had to jump in and do. Our resident aides, nurses, same thing. They became their surrogate family members and working together. Even our families, really jumping together and really showing the support and the understanding, as heartbreaking as it was. Technology, Mark Kroner and his team getting us the Google Nest, teaching us all FaceTime and things like that. But then we come to our residents, trying to help them understand, getting a memory care resident to wear a mask. Sometimes it can be impossible. We did things getting the gardening hats that had the little visors on it. And then we made it fun and different colors and different themes so that they would do that. They could still be protected, but being able to engage with other individuals. So I think in the end, we learned, regardless if it was memory care, independent living, the strength of the senior population is amazing. A lot of our residents lived through a lot of these, if it wasn't the TB epidemic or the different world wars, the Depression, and they were able to stride right along with us through this. But definitely working in those smaller communities that were locked down the longest was the biggest challenge we had.
Tony tells a great story about some of her memory care residents that couldn't quite grasp COVID and the need to keep a mask on. So she reminded them of TB, like Michele said, and oh, it's like TB. And then they'd get their mask on and they'd keep it on until they forgot that it was about TB. But so they did everything they could. So we sent out the survey like I talked about. And one of the questions was, what were the challenges that you faced during COVID? Staffing and recruitment, and that has lasted with us to this day, the effect of that. Like Michele just talked about, the added responsibilities to those that remained, and the burnout, and the constant overtime hours, and trying to keep their residents safe. The lack of in-person meetings, I mean, God bless you, Mark, getting us all on Zoom and figuring out how that works. And boy, when we first started, somebody had a Blue Jean account, and then somebody else had a Microsoft account, and every time you got into a new meeting, you had to learn a new way to get in there, and everybody was late and couldn't see the faces, and so now the Zoom is wonderful. And learning a new way to work. I was watching today, made me shudder a little, but I'm just as guilty. We were all hugging each other today. PVM is a huggy place. And when we had to stay 6 feet away from each other, and you'd look at people and you would just assume if they sneezed and coughed, they were contagious, that was a weird feeling, because we are really a tight family, and that separated us physically, just like it did, families at home and families with their residents. So we lived that with them. And sanitizing everything. Good Lord, I had no skin left for the beginning, and I don't even do patient care. So I know that our staff, just trying to keep the doorknobs clean and the elevators clean and everything, they just really worked hard. And part of the other challenge that came up a couple times on the questionnaire was COVID continues, and now we need to live with it. And Roger put that article on the table for everyone to take a look at it, and it really does say that. It's not going away, It's not killing people as fast now, but it doesn't mean it can't. So we can't, let our guard down. So the other interesting thing is we're so sick of hearing the bad things about COVID, because that has been my job for 3 years. How many people have died? How many people have it? What are we going to do next? Blah, blah, blah. Terrible. When we sent this out, I have 2 pages of victories and only 1 page of challenges. So I thought that was pretty amazing, and thank you for everybody sending it in. So when you take a look at all of our residents and all of our staff overall, we really had a low number of positive cases across the whole system. And some people reported that they never tested positive at all. That is a fantastic thing. Some people said they were happy that they didn't get sick and they could still come to work every day. That says something about PVM. A lot of people put in there, great team and family, friends maintain safety for the residents. People learned about contact tracing and infection control. I love my housing administrators. Where are you? They became overnight infection control experts, and that was something they did not have to do in their previous life, but they all did it. Thank you. They did a great job. This came from our board members. We have better attendance at committee and board meeting members now because we have Zoom. So people that can't get in because they have a cold or they can't drive, we're all together. And then telehealth also propelled forward, which was something we all were waiting for, and somehow COVID gave it a big boost. So good victories there. We learned how to be together socially, but not physically, and that's a lot like what Dr. Ananda was telling us about. We learned how to slow down, whether we liked it or not. And some of us felt like we weren't slowing down, but we really did. We slowed down, we had to be outside. We all learned to take nothing for granted, and I hope that sticks with us. We learned resiliency, we learned to rely on each other. We were able to retain staff, and they went above and beyond every day. So kudos to those staff members. And one of the victories that was set in the survey, PVM efforts to support and encourage and strengthen staff. So kudos to leadership for keeping your staff supported. So some of the lessons we learned, and this again came through the survey, the importance of infection control and clean, clean, clean. And that will be with us until the end of time. The importance of sharing consistent information with staff and residents. And when Michele was talking about writing the orders, we would get the order from, Lord knows who was sending it. It would be the executive orders, it would be MDHHS, it would be CMS, it would be OSHA, and you never knew what was coming on what day. But we'd get it, we'd write it, we'd put the resident spin on it, we'd ship it off to HR and LaDonna. They would quickly put the employee staff spin on it, and we'd get it all out to everybody, so everybody was getting the same information, because it was all important that we knew what to do and how to do it based on that current order. So that was a big deal. Let staff know you appreciate them, and I think everybody in this room does a good job at that. Keep doing it. Our staff, without them, we wouldn't be here, so kudos to all of our staff. Always be prepared and have supplies and work at home. I'm a freak risk manager. I have beans stocked in my house. I could survive any nuclear fallout on canned baked beans, and bottled water. So everybody learned to be a little more, do a little more planning, and that's a good thing too. Have empathy for those who need more time to process. That was a really big thing that HR taught us and worked through a lot with us, because some people just cannot process this much change this fast. And we need to give them time. We need to let them think about what's going on and catch up. Stay home when sick and stay healthy. I think stay home with sick, we all learned a lot. I mean, we used to spread colds around like crazy because none of us wanted to stay home. Oh, I have work to do, I gotta get to work. Stay home. Stay home when you're sick and we'll all stay healthy. Continue with Zoom and implement the policies consistently despite personal opinions. So those were the ideas that came from the survey. We also asked who were the heroes, and we got a lot of nice answers. Frontline caregivers came back on almost every survey we sent out, and all staff. HR department came in, the unsung heroes. They were in the background holding all the staff together all the time, helping them with their benefits, helping them when they were sick. What did they do? Thank you, HR. Technology, of course, going right out in the trenches, making sure everybody stayed connected. And Roger, you were recognized for leading PVM in a pandemic that showed up with no warning, no preparation, and no guidebook, so thank you. So what does a Zarina know? I'm tired, I know that. Social isolation has negative impacts, and we all figured that out. And when Dr. Nanda was talking about the hallway being the place of activity, that survey was done just past COVID. So many of you administrators did all of your activities in the hallway. You were so creative. I remember the ice cream trucks and the little cart, that was you, the little carts that were turned into ice cream trucks. Lakeshore had a bar cart because the pub was closed. Andrea Felice had music in the hallways. I mean, everything was done in the hallways, so that was fantastic. And then that leads to the importance, of course, as we go forward, how do we build FA? Where's Ian? New guy. There he is. How do we improve our connection but yet still keeping everybody separated and safe in the building? So this will be a good new projects for us. So here's the other thing I know. Audra, did you pass out these little bracelets? All right. So we are not in control of this. Never will be. We are all, where's Lou? We. All of us. We. We are smarter than we think. We are braver than we feel. We are stronger than we know. We are all very dedicated to our residents. We are thankful for our heroes and our staff. We respect each other. We adapt. We survive. We're a team. We are ready for whatever comes next. And if you put on your little bracelets, they say nothing is impossible when we exceed our expectations. Thank you.
So when I saw the wristband yesterday, and then I saw this slide where it says nothing is impossible, I have this plaque that I'm giving to Katrina, actually 2 different plaques, and it says impossible, but then below it says I'm possible. And it's really, Katrina, because of your possibilities. And then, I don't think we're ever going to forget the last 3 years, but you never know, like in 10 years, maybe it'll be. But I just thought this would be something that, we share this with everybody, certainly staff and board members and residents, but this says, forever thankful, always grateful, and abundantly blessed. Katrina, thank you
Thank you,
for
Roger.
everything you did. Thank you. Okay.